The final thing I just want to mention briefly is the Senate President and I have had several conversations, as has the Lieutenant Governor, as have we with folks at MBI and Housing and Economic Development about broadband. Um, what I would say at this point is we are fully committed to solving this problem. Uh, but I believe that the process and the program model that we reviewed over the first year of our time in office that came out of MBI was not going to work for locals financially or administratively, and was probably not sustainable. And while we think the Wired West model with the 7 communities they're currently working with is an appropriate path for those communities to take. I think the financial burden that would be associated with trying to do anything like that across all of Western Mass is simply not feasible or financially affordable for you or for the Commonwealth. And we are currently working with a variety of parties to both access federal funding where we believe it is available. And those conversations are actually quite positive, and I believe if we play our cards right there, will bear fruit for us. And we're also talking to a number of the players in the service provision space about a whole variety of approaches to this that we believe create a more affordable and sustainable path forward. Um, Speaking for the governor, for the lieutenant governor, and the rest of the administration, we get this is a very important issue, and it's why we committed the $50 million through the Mass Broadband Institute last year. But it's also got to be done in a way that works financially, not just on an installation basis, but on a go forward basis so that it can be sustained over time. And it's also got to be done using what I would describe as a forward looking approach to the technologies that are available. And unfortunately, I think we still have some homework to do on this one. I'd love to be able to say today that we figured this one out and we have all the answers. What I can tell you is I do believe we're asking the right questions, and uh, and I do believe we're talking to the right people. And it's my hope and expectation that in a fairly short period of time, we're going to be able to put a plan together that's a real path that will actually get us to where we need to go and will work for the communities in Western Mass, both financially and technologically. Um, and that for me is sort of the big the big choke point here, which is when we started looking at the way some of this was going to work and what the expectation was about what local communities would have to pay to support this. It just math just didn't work, and we said at that point, folks, we need to think a little differently about how this works. Um, with that said, I'm happy to be with you this morning. I'm sorry that it's from 3,000 miles away or whatever it is, and I'm happy to take questions.
Me to repeat a little bit for the.
I heard everything. I heard everything you said.
Okay, so I think because broadband touches all the other policy areas of economic development, education, public safety, et cetera, and the folks out here, this is ground zero. We've been waiting for at least 10 years. I know myself, I've been working on it before the Western Mass delegation really got involved, and they are great. I appreciate that you want to take a thoughtful approach to it, but I would say, one, in terms of framing how you approach it, and also in terms of lifting up on the pause button, that there has been massive amount of thought. The amount of meetings and strategy, as you can appreciate, getting independent towns to work together and figure out both the organizational and the legal structures to do that, and then the political ability to get the cats to play together, that's been achieved. And so we really need to move forward. So as you're thinking about this, I would say please do it quickly, because we're all primed. And from the financing, with the Wired West towns, there's been an amazing amount of town level money that's been put up. In Shutesbury, I think the vote was 400 to 12. I'll say 400 to 12 for an override. That's talks about people wanting it. So I'd encourage you to move fast and just acknowledge all the hard work that people have put into it. So thank you.
No, I'm well aware. Yeah, I am well aware of the amount of work and effort that's been put into this, but I don't want to end up in a situation where the thing that concerned me about this was when we started digging into this, while there are many commonalities across these communities, there are also some big differences. And what works for certain communities may or may not, and I would argue probably won't work across all of the communities. And that means we're going to need probably more than one kind of solution to solve this problem on a sustainable basis. And I completely agree with you that speed matters here. But I also don't want to end up in a situation where people's expectations are badly missed with respect to both what it's going to cost and what it's going to do and how it's going to work. And I get the fact that economic development and education are, believe me, I am well aware of what's at stake here, and this thing has our full attention. And Michael, if you want to grab 2 or 3 people who are part of this and come on in and pay us a visit someday at the State House, I'd be happy to sit down with folks and have that conversation face to face.
I think the whole line of people, Governor, who are standing behind me all have the same message. They're all people involved in broadband that I can see, so I think they're all going to deliver it. As you've heard, we have been working on this for a long time. We know that different towns had options. I'm from Hawley. I'm also the chair of the Mohawk School Committee, so I know that broadband for all of the Mohawk towns is essential for us to provide the education we need. I know for Hawley, we'll never be able to afford fiber if the town has to contribute to it through tax money. But we're looking at wireless, and I know other towns are looking at wireless. And just as your community compact program is designed to empower the communities, I have a sense that communities feel like you're taking that back away from them yet again. We had a solution. We thought we were moving forward in 2014. We thought we were moving forward in 2015. We thought we were moving forward in 2016. And the last that I heard from MBI at a wireless meeting on Wednesday night was that they're doing a study of what wireless would look like in all 44 towns, and they probably won't complete that till the end of August, early September. So I hope you're hearing us, Governor. Thank you.
Governor, my name is Charlie Rose. I'm a selectman in the town of Worthington, and certainly don't mean to be redundant here. I simply want to ask, again, in relation to broadband, your last statement was that you're talking to the right people, and it doesn't appear that we seem to have any representation in this process. So I would simply like to ask what the plan is for representatives from the towns that are, in fact, affected by this. We have no seat on the MBI board. The Western Mass representatives are from Springfield and Lenox, and Linda representing FERCOG. As far as I know, that's it for Western Mass. So will there be hearings? Will there be a committee that includes members of our communities?
I'll make sure. I mean, I said it when Mike finished his remarks that I was happy to have a meeting with him and whoever he wants to bring. I would say the same to you. Why don't we just agree, working through the Senate President's office, that we'll get a bunch of people together and create some kind of some sort of way to engage this part of the conversation going forward. There's two things you guys need to know here. One is that I'm as frustrated with most of the information that I've collected on this issue as I think anybody. But at the same time, if we had gone ahead with that original proposal, there's absolutely no way you or we would have been able to fund it based on everybody's expectations about what they thought they were going to be in for. And I would much rather fix that before we end up so far down the road that everybody has to eat something that's dramatically different than what they were told they were going to have to eat in the first place financially. Because I'm well aware of the fact that, you know, dollars are precious here, and we got to make sure we get this right. And I got to tell you, folks, the fact that nobody had been chasing the federal money that was available on this previously, you know, state government will take the hit for that if we need to. But there is a lot of resource available there. And it wasn't even part of the plan the first time I was briefed on it, which made no sense to me at all.
Okay.
So I'm happy to have this meeting. What I would say is I'll put a little bit of this on my colleague, the Senate President. Stan, why don't you come up with a collection of folks you think it would be good to meet with? I'll get a bunch of folks on our team together, and let's have a sit down and go through some of this. I'd love to do that.
Thank you.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
Just a citizen from a small dot in the map called Charlemont. And again on the broadband issue. Sorry. Most state workers, entities within the Commonwealth, I think, really want to do what's best for the citizens of the whole Commonwealth, not just for their paycheck every week. One of the things that's bothered me most about this whole broadband issue is we have a state entity known as MBI who refuses to answer questions from my town select board. They wholeheartedly do not respond to their correspondence. They will not take any input from the towns at all. It's basically, we know what's best for you, even though my town is putting up 2/3 of the money for our infrastructure. I realize that that is contrary to what is normally done. Normally, the state puts up most of the money, so they should have a say in it. But the towns need a say in what they want. We're going into this with our eyes wide open. We understand that we are putting up $1.7 million of money for this infrastructure. We need it. I can't do this on dial-up. It just doesn't work.
Yep.
And we're totally frustrated with the spending of overhead money, over $400,000 for a company that has used faulty data and refuses to acknowledge that. They've also been given another $200,000 worth of authorization. To me, that's frustrating, to spend that much money and get no results, other than we're now going to make a criteria for doing it. What have they done for the last 8 years that they've been in existence, since 2008? I'm totally frustrated. My town is frustrated, and many of the people in this room are frustrated with the inability to move forward on something that's critical to our infrastructure. We're all suffering, and it's unfair. And thank you for your time.
Message delivered, and I completely understand your frustration and your concern. We'll make sure we get together and have this conversation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor. My name is Calvin Carr. I'm from Heath. I'm on the planning board. And I guess my position is that your administration, as well as Stan's legislature, needs to understand the urgency of the problem of broadband, or the lack of it. Our towns are dying. Our population is going down. Our school enrollment is going down, which means more taxes on us. We can't sell our homes because young people come out and say, I love this area. I love the house. They ask two questions. Do you have broadband? No. Do you have cell service? No. They're gone. So we have houses on the market that are not being taxed, which means our tax rates go up. It's a public safety issue. Our own fire station in Heath doesn't have any connection to broadband. It's in the center of town, and that's it. In the winter months, you drive by the center of Heath, and I'm sure it's in these other towns. There are parents sitting in their cars so their children can do homework that they got at the school. There are people in the town of Heath who cannot take community college classes from this community college because they don't have internet service. And they don't have books because everything's on the internet. So it's a public safety issue, it's a health issue, it's an economic issue. We need a bloodline to keep ourselves alive, and that bloodline is broadband. We don't have any economic growth out here because no one comes out because broadband is not here. We're losing population, as I said. Our towns are getting old, and if something doesn't happen soon, these towns really will wither on the vine, and it'd be a shame to see it. I know you drive through these towns back and forth when you go to the western part of the state, but we are here, and we need your help. And I believe that broadband is like electricity used to be and the telephone used to be, that we as citizens have an equal right to that as the people do in Boston, and it's incumbent on the government to give us those equal rights of broadband so we can have the same quality of life as the people in Boston do, and our towns can survive and grow. So I want to bring that to your attention, and I trust that you will respond appropriately. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor. My name is Jim Draw. I'm a selectman in Cummington, and I'd like to bring you back to broadband.
Go right ahead, Jim.
Last May, we had our annual town meeting, and we had a record turnout. We had standing room only. And we had a unanimous vote. People understood that the $1.4 million that we authorized could potentially come out of their taxes, and they were willing to pay for that. The other 23 towns in their annual town meetings last May had similar situations. We had 2 towns that had a turnout large enough they had to move the venue across the street to the church. And in all cases, those votes were either unanimous or there were half a dozen people that voted against it. People out here are hungry, and they're willing to pay what it takes to get good quality broadband. Wireless is not good quality broadband. Wireless has a cap of 50 megabits. That is not sustainable in the long run. We need fiber, and we're willing to pay for it. So doing a wireless study and taking another 6 months does not make any sense to me. Spending $500,000 to do a wireless study for people that don't want it, for the towns, the 3 towns that say they can't afford fiber, if you gave them the $500,000, they could afford the fiber. Doesn't make sense to study this thing. We're in analysis paralysis. We've been at this thing for 5 years now. The MBI has had the opportunity for the last 2 years. We understand that they're the gatekeepers, but they have yet to write the rules of how we unlock the gate. We need a set of rules. We're putting up 2/3 of the money. We need a voice in what those rules are, not just sitting at the table listening. We need to be in a drafting position and have the veto power over what those are. This is a home rule state. This is our money that we're spending. We want control over how it's spent. We don't want to be dictated to by a bureaucracy. And last, we want some sunshine. How much of the $50 million has already been spent? What was it spent for, and what was accomplished with it? We want a monthly status report from MBI. What did you spend this month? What did you spend it on? What did you accomplish with it? What are you going to accomplish in the next month? A monthly status report on their website and in the local papers so that we can track what progress is being made, what direction is going, what everything is going to. I will take you up on your offer to come visit you and present our case to you. Thank you for that offer.
Yep, look forward to it. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Governor, and safe travels.
So the best part about this, Mr. President, a couple of guys like you and me who are so not techie at all, actually managed to pull this off, which means we really, really good staff.
That's great. Well, thank you again for joining us, and safe travels home.
Thank you. Take care.